Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the conflict on the territory of Ukraine. Intensified security checks have begun in northern Ukraine due to the Russian threat, according to the SBU. They are checking citizens, vehicles, territories and premises. This applies to the Chernihiv, Kiev, Zhytomyr, Volyn and Rivne regions. The primary focus will be preventing infiltration into border areas, according to the SBU. Yesterday, Zelensky repeatedly spoke of the threat of a Russian offensive from Belarus, although a week ago the Ukrainian armed forces reported that they had not detected any Russian troop concentrations on the Belarusian border. Another important video is coming from the Republic of Belarus itself. The Belarusian Ministry of Defense has released footage of joint nuclear exercises with Russia taking place from May 19th to 21st. The exercises involve over 64,000 military personnel, over 200 missile systems, 140 aircraft, 73 ships and 13 submarines. The exercises include bombings with special munitions against a simulated enemy. Another important thing that is under the cover of these military drills, the Republic of Belarus and the Russian Federation have deployed nuclear warheads on the territory of the Republic of Belarus itself. Meanwhile, both the Russians and the Ukrainians continue attacking each other with drones. According to information we have, during the previous night between the 20th and the 21st of May of 2026, the Russians attacked the territory of Ukraine using 117 drones. A lot of videos and updates were published during the previous 12 hours on this matter. According to information we have, the Russians continued bombing and attacking the city of Dnipro. As for the city of Dnipro, we have a video. Here we have the consequences of yesterday's attack. If you remember, yesterday the Russians destroyed a warehouse on the territory of the city, and now we see that this warehouse and these warehouses continue to burn in Dnipro after night strikes. Another important area that was attacked by Russians is the city of Kharkiv, more precisely the Kharkiv region around the settlement by the name of Chuguyev. Lots of explosions and lots of drones the Russians used to attack right exactly this territory, and the Russians did this because the Ukrainians began their counteroffensive operation in the Volchansk direction, and during the previous 24 hours the Russians also managed to improve their positions here as well. We will discuss this in a minute. Just now let's talk about massive attacks. According to information, according to media, the Russians destroyed another gas station, and probably this is already 30th or 40th gas station on the territory of Ukraine that was destroyed by Russians. If the Russians continue doing the same, obviously during the next winter the Ukrainians will have the biggest gasoline crisis ever, because most of the gas stations would be destroyed by Russians, at least through the central and the eastern parts of Ukraine, which from the first side will not allow the Ukrainians to receive fuel along the line of combat contact, but from the other side we understand that if it happens, the civilians through this area will also not be able to get access to fuel and to different types of gasoline and so on. Another important area is the city of Chuguyev. During the previous 2 nights, the Russians attacked this territory with drones, and in this video we can see the moment when the Russians attacked the warehouse, and here we can see the consequences of this attack. The warehouse was completely destroyed. During the previous night, the Ukrainians also attacked the territory of Russia, and this morning the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation stated that during the night between the 20th and the 21st of May of 2026, the Ukrainians used 121 drones and the Russians destroyed them. And this picture was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and here we can see the approximate routes of Ukraine's drones that were attacking deep inside of the territory of Russia. And as you can see, according to this picture, the Ukrainians were attacking in many directions, and as a result of this attack, as of the morning of the 21st of May of 2026, it is known that the Ukrainians hit the Syzran oil refinery, the city which is located along the river of Volga, and we have lots of videos on this matter. For example, in this video we can see the Syzran oil refinery, we can see a black smoke over this object of energy infrastructure, and we can see a fire broke out after Ukraine's attack. In this video here we can see drones probably of the armed forces of Ukraine that were flying over the settlement of Syzran, and also we can see black smoke over the territory of oil refinery. Here we have the same picture, oil refinery from another angle. A fire broke out after Ukraine's attack and the black smoke over the settlement. So as a result of this attack, we can see that this oil refinery probably wasn't destroyed completely, but was damaged. And this is probably every single day we receive another video how Ukrainians attack this or that oil refinery through the entire territory of the Russian Federation. Another important thing is that the allies of Ukraine are conducting reconnaissance operation through the area of the Black Sea. Lots of drones and aircraft, reconnaissance aircrafts, are flying over this area with the purpose to collect surveillance operation about the situation in the southern regions of Russia, probably in the area of the cities of Novorossiysk, Gelendzhik, Tuapse, and probably even Sochi. And the Russians began acting more aggressively against NATO aircrafts, and today we received a report that 2 Russian fighter jets repeatedly and dangerously intercepted a British reconnaissance plane over the Black Sea that was stated by the United Kingdom Ministry of Defense. So this is the moment when the Russians were trying to force the reconnaissance aircraft of the United Kingdom to fall back from this area without gathering and collecting the reconnaissance reconnaissance information. So this is a very important thing. The Russians most likely will continue doing the same, trying not to allow the allies of Ukraine to collect information about the situation through the thousand regions of the Russian Federation. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground. We have lots of very interesting updates, and first let's talk about the Kharkiv direction. During the previous night we received the biggest number of updates exactly from this area. As you can see, the map has been adjusted significantly, and due to these adjustments and due to this activity, we believe the Russians were bombing and attacking the city of Chuguyev, trying not to allow the Ukrainians to bring fresh forces, reinforcements and reserves in the direction of Belarusian, because the city of Chuguyev is a logistic hub that Ukrainians use to deploy their troops and forces further in the northeastern direction towards the city of Belarusian. As of the previous 12 hours, as you can see, we have changes. The Ukrainians began their counteroffensive operation with the purpose to slow down the Russians. The Ukrainians, according to information we have, carried out a counteroffensive operation from this big forest in the northern direction, and as a result of this counteroffensive operation, the Ukrainians once again managed to recapture the settlement of Staritsa. The settlement of Staritsa is the settlement which is located in the gray zone, because the settlement of Staritsa, as you can see, is located between 2 forests. The northern one is under control of the armed force of the Russian Federation, and the southern one is under the control of the armed force of Ukraine. So that is why the Ukrainians, when the Ukrainians counterattack, they managed to recapture the forest, but probably during the next several days or weeks, the Russians will counterattack back and will recapture all lost positions. On the eastern flank, according to information we have, according to neutral mappers and different sources, the armed forces of Ukraine have recaptured several villages. We are talking about the village of Vilcha, the settlement of Lyman, and the settlement of Tsehelny. As a result of the Ukrainian counterattack, the Russians were forced to fall back from this area, but the Ukrainians counterattacked in this area not with the purpose to recapture everything till the border with the Russian Federation. The Ukrainians counterattacked through these 2 positions just with the purpose to slow down the Russians and not to allow the Russians to develop their offensive operation further in the direction of the city of Belarusian. Because today pro-Russian sources and the group of forces north stated that the Russians, as a result of clashes, established complete control over the settlement by the name of SHESTERIVKA. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. This is the end of the 20th of May of 2026, and this is the beginning of the 21st of May of 2026. As a result of these counterattacks, the Ukrainians managed to establish control over several logistic lines that were moving in the direction of Russian contingent in the area of SHESTERIVKA. Now the Russians need to stop their offensive operation and to begin counterattacks with the purpose to stabilize the situation and to stabilize logistic routes, which means that the Russians will be forced to waste days, maybe even weeks for this operation. The Ukrainians understand the value of SHESTERIVKA if the Russians are able to dig in deeper and to continue offensive operation further. As we discussed many times during the previous videos, this will allow the Russians to attack the city of BELARUS basically from behind, and this will force the Ukrainians to fall back from this area. Another important direction in the northeastern parts of Kharkiv is the river of Volcha. During the previous 12 hours, additional changes on the ground were also recorded through this territory. The Russians improved their position, and it seems that the Russians are about to finish the battle for this big forest along the border, and when it happens, most likely the Ukrainians will not be able to control all these villages in the most northeastern parts of the region, and the Ukrainians would be forced to fall back from this area further in the southern direction. So we see that the battle for the northeastern parts of Kharkiv region is intensifying. Now let's discuss the situation in the Kupyansk direction. During the previous 12 hours, the map has been adjusted. As you can see, despite the numerous reports and updates published by the Minister of Defense and the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation that the eastern bank of the river Voskol in the Kupyansk direction is under complete control of Russians, we still have lots of pockets of resistance, we still have lots of territories colored with yellow color, and we still have lots of territories colored as a gray zone, and we still see that the Russians, the geolocations provided by pro-Russian sources are still very far from the river Voskol itself. And during the previous nights, we received two more videos published, two more episodes published in one video by pro-Russian sources. We are talking about video that describes the situation in the area of the city of Kavsharovka. This video was published by pro-Russian sources, and in this video we can see how Russians were attacking using FPV drones positions of the armed forces of Ukraine through the city of Kavsharovka. One of the strikes was geolocated right exactly at this point, and the second attack was discovered right exactly in this area, which means that most likely the central part of the settlement of Kavsharovka is still under complete control of the armed forces of Ukraine. So this is the situation by the end of the 20th of May, and this is the situation by the end of the 21st of May of 2026. And as you can see, the settlement of Kavsharovka was under complete Russian control only according to the Minister of Defense and the Chief of the General Staff. We haven't received even a single geolocation that confirms complete control over both the settlements of Kavsharovka and Nova Osinova, but furthermore we start receiving more updates that confirm completely opposite thing. So based on these videos, we have adjusted the map, and now we see that it seems that the Ukrainians still have some positions on the Russian side of the river Voskol. Now let's move further. Now let's discuss the situation in the Lyman direction. During the previous days, the Ukrainians carried out several counterattacks in this area, and as a result of the Ukraine's counterattacks, the Russians were forced to fall back from positions around the settlement of Stavki. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. One of these changes was provided by neutral mappers, and one of the changes was confirmed by a video published by pro-Russian sources. In this video we can see how Russians were attacking and bombing positions of the armed forces of Ukraine through these three lines. So based on these videos and these reports, we have adjusted the map. So we still see that despite the fact that the Minister of Defense and the Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation report that Russians control up to 85% of the city of Lyman, we still receive updates that some Ukraine positions are located much further than the city limits of Lyman and so on. The Slaviansk direction, small changes recorded to the west of Kaleniki. This is the situation by the end of the 20th. This is the situation by the beginning of the 21st of May. This territory is no longer considered as an infiltration area. Now we believe that this is a gray zone, which means that the Russians have stronger control over this territory than expected. the cities of Kramatorsk and Druzhkivka. During the previous 24 hours, significant activity of the Russian aviation was recorded. The Russians were bombing and attacking both the cities of Kramatorsk with all types of weapons they have. It seems that the Russians came to complete conclusion and complete confidence that the Ukrainians and Zelensky will not withdraw troops from this area, which means that most likely the cities of Konstantinovka and Kramatorsk awaits the same destiny as the cities of Konstantinovka, Bakhmut, Volchansk and so on. So these settlements would be reduced to ruins because the Russians are not going to stop and they will continue offensive. And the Russians began significant bombarding of these settlements, which means that in coming days we may see the Russian offensive operation and major attacks in these directions. The Zaporizhzhia area, there are very heavy clashes in this area. The Russians continue offensive, the Ukrainians continue counterattacks, the Russians continue bombing positions of the armed forces through the entire territory. The Ukrainians began evacuation of different settlements, so we see that the battle for the city of Zaporizhzhia is gaining momentum, and as we can see, nobody is going to give up. Furthermore, we have reports that the Russians improved their positions around the settlement of Vasylivka. And these are the changes on the ground between the dates. This is the end of the 20th and this is the beginning of the 21st of May. The Russians took captured these two lines and strongholds and continue advancing further in the direction of the settlement of Ternovata. So the Russians, it seems, are tasked to establish complete control over this pocket and to establish strong control over these territories and then to continue offensive operations further in the western direction. Different sources adjusted their maps in this area by adding additional infiltration zones, and according to new infiltration zones, first sabotage and reconnaissance groups of the armed forces of the Russian Federation managed to get the TO408 road. So in coming days, the map will be adjusted significantly. We will add additional gray zones, which means that the situation continues deteriorating for the armed forces of Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Ukrainians continue their counterattacks in the area of Malotokmachka. Today, the map has been adjusted based on the video that was published by pro-Russian sources. And according to this video, the Russians were attacking Ukrainians through these tree lines and fortifications. So which means that Ukrainians are trying to improve positions around the city of Orechov before the beginning of a major battle for this territory. We have covered most of the updates regarding the conflict on the territory of Ukraine. Now let's discuss the situation in the world. According to information we have, the United States of America is preparing itself before the beginning of another operation, but this time in the Caribbean Sea against the state of Cuba. Today we received a report that a U.S. Navy strike group has entered the Caribbean Sea amid accusations by Washington against the former president of Cuba. The group consists of the aircraft carrier USS Nimitz, the destroyer USS Gridley, and the supply tanker Patsexant, according to the Southern Command. So this is the this is CVN Nimitz. He has entered this territory. Most likely it will take time before this aircraft carrier group continue deployment, and then the United States of America will be able and will be ready to start operations. Very difficult to say what exactly the United States of America is going to make in Cuba, either to bomb as Iran or just to to arrest former presidents and leaders of Cuba, as the United States of America did in Venezuela. Everything is possible, but one thing is clear, that something might happen in this area. The midterm elections are going to start very soon, so basically the United States of America has just 2 months to finish this operation before it will be late. Meanwhile, the Iranians continue strengthening their positions in the Strait of Hormuz. Today, according to information we have, Iran's newly announced Persian Gulf Strait Authority says it has established a controlled maritime zone in the Strait of Hormuz, and as you can see, this maritime zone is much bigger in comparison with the zone that we used to see a month ago. Now the Iranians control not just their own waters, but also all waters of Oman and United Arab Emirates, including ports like Fujairah, and this is a very important situation, which means that now the export of the United Arab Emirates solely depends just on the position of the Iranian side. And as you can see, the United States of America are not able to do anything with this. Another important thing that during the previous 12 hours, the U.S. Army Central Command reported that U.S. forces detained an Iranian oil tanker in the Gulf of Oman today. The tanker was attempting to bridge the U.S. blockade of Iran. After inspection, the tanker was released and ordered to change course. So meanwhile, we see that at the same time, the United States of America continues saving their blockade of the Gulf of Oman without any chances for the Iranians to break through this area. But according to different sources, the Iranians sometimes have possibilities to find a solution for this situation. Another important area is Armenia. According to information we have, the next months parliament elections are going to take place in this area. And these days, the Russians announced almost officially that the current Prime Minister of Armenia is almost like somebody who is not good for Russians and doesn't fit Russia's requirements. So according to information we have, in coming days, lots of things might happen in the theater of the state of Armenia. And obviously, this is going to be a very tough battle. The Armenians would be supported by Ukraine, by the European Union, and the opposition would be supported by Russia. Everything is possible during the parliament elections. Armenia will not be able to be a member of the European Union and the ally of economical alliance of Russia. Another important thing that Russian Security Council Secretary Sergei Shoigu accused Armenia of systematically undermining its alliance with Moscow, saying Yerevan has been joining European Union positions at international forum and deliberately worsening operating conditions for Russian economic operators in the country. Shoigu said Armenia's recent conduct does not reflect the spirit of allied relations with Russia. Everything is possible during the next months, and most likely the Russians will try to do everything they can with the purpose to win the battle for the Armenian parliament. And the Russians will try to do everything they can and with all means and all things they can use for these purposes. And that's it for today, for the short video. The Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye-bye.